Good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you guys for joining us this evening for our April Financial Literacy Workshop. As you know, April is Financial Literacy Month, and so I'm super excited to be partnering with one of our financial partners, Self-Help Federal Credit Union, to do a workshop about savings. You know, oftentimes, you know, we talk about, I can't save, I can't afford to save, I don't know how to save. And then, as you know, the pandemic, the last 3 years have really kind of taught us and showed us where people are financially. How many people were hurting, folks who never thought that they would see themselves in the food line.
That's for sure.
Or, you know, maybe almost to the point of homeless because they did not have a savings account. And so I felt like this month would be the perfect time to talk to and to educate and to empower our community around the importance of saving. And so I want to thank you, Dante, for taking this time to just spend with us this evening, just to share and to educate us a little bit about the importance of saving. And so without any further ado, I am going to turn this over to Dante. Go ahead, Dante.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all for joining us today. My name is Dante Rojas. I'm the Assistant Manager for the West Oakland branch of Self-Help Credit Union. Self-Help's mission is to create ownership and economic opportunity for all, especially underserved communities. We do this through financial services and providing financial guidance for all our members, including our partners, like those from One Treasure Island. So for tonight's workshop, we will be talking about strategies to save money. Saving money can be done if you're able to commit to a dollar amount you want to save on a regularly occurring basis that coincides with your payday. This strategy works if you're able to create a spending plan for yourself so you can decide on a reasonable amount to save and commit to saving this amount each pay period. The act of saving money and budgeting often leads to reaching financial goals. People who are successful in reaching their financial goals, whatever they may be, participate in these practices of managing their funds. So the main topics I'm hoping that you all take away with you tonight is to learn a tried and true strategy to save. We're also going to go over how to set financial goals, because setting financial goals gives us reason for saving. Without these goals, sometimes the idea of saving is a little too abstract. We don't want it to be abstract. It needs to be something definite and concrete. Tonight, we're also going to go over how to create a spending plan. In other words, a budget. Budget and spending plan are the same concept. So if you haven't created a spending plan for yourself, tonight I'm going to show you how you can start to create one for yourself. So we're doing all of this tonight because effective spending plans help you reach your financial goals, to put everything in perspective. So why don't we start with a question that you could all ask for yourself. What are your financial goals? What are you trying to do financial-wise, whether it be short-term or long-term? What is it that interests you to the idea of saving? Another question you could ask for yourself, if you're not quite sure, is what is most important to you in your future? Some of you may already have definite plans, some may not. So here are some financial goals that I have seen during my time as a financial coach. Before I was an assistant branch manager, I worked in San Francisco as a financial coach, and I met with many individuals to figure out and determine what their financial goal was. Because once you have a concrete and definite goal, the idea of saving becomes more important and more immediate. So some financial goals I've seen is to stop living from paycheck to paycheck. This is a very modest financial goal, but a very realistic one, depending on your circumstance. If you feel you don't have money left over to save, living from paycheck to paycheck may be an issue you're dealing with. So to stop yourself from living from paycheck to paycheck may be your immediate financial goal. Other people, and financial goals can be value oriented. Some people's values are surrounding family and their relationships with others. An airplane ticket for a family reunion may be a very important and immediate financial goal, because maybe there's a certain relative you haven't seen in years and you'd really love to see them. But with airplane ticket prices the way they are, saving up for an airplane ticket for a family reunion might be an immediate and important financial goal. Getting to work on time is very important, because getting to work on time helps us keep our jobs, and some jobs very difficult to get to through public transportation. So buying a car might be a very important financial goal. So is buying a house. Buying a house is sometimes the ultimate financial goal for many of us, because owning a house creates generational wealth that you can pass to your offspring. Starting a business, if either one of us here is an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur, starting a business is another financial goal that one might have for oneself. So these are goals that many people have for themselves, and this might be the catalyst and the incentive to figure out a way and a reason to start saving. So how does this tie in together? Let's take the auto loan for an example. If you're looking to buy a car, it's very difficult to buy a car cash, especially if you're looking for a car that has relatively high value. So the next option is to get a loan. Most people buy a car through a loan. However, you may be well aware that there may be very high interest loans out there, or you may have been declined for a loan for a lack of down payment. To get a fair and honest rate on an auto loan, you're going to have to come up with a down payment. And down payments can be in the thousands of dollars range, right? So saving up money for a down payment would be a reason, a motivating factor to save money to make that honest auto loan a reality. What if you're looking to rent an apartment? What if you're looking for housing and you need a little bit more spacious housing than you had before, and the place you've identified as an ideal location for you to move into requires a deposit? That deposit amount, if you don't have it, makes it so that you will not be able to rent that location that really would be a healthy place for you to live. So that's another motivating factor to saving money. Home loans is another topic we can discuss, because home loans, as you're well aware, require very large down payments. It could be 3%, 10%, or even up to 20% price of the house as a down payment. If we're talking about a $500,000 house and your down payment requirement is 10%, $50,000 is a huge chunk of change. So these are all motivating factors as to why it's very important to save, because if you can figure out a plan to save, you can make some of these goals a reality. And I don't know, I want to talk about a slide, but the way my screen is showing is like cutting off the top portion. Is the top portion cut off on your screens? Or is it just me?
No, we're seeing pay yourself first.
Okay, great. So one mantra, one saying that I want to share with all of you tonight, and I hope is the biggest takeaway from tonight's presentation, is to pay yourself first. Between Connie and Tracy, I'm not sure if Tracy's on mic, but I know Connie is. Have you ever heard of this phrase before? Pay yourself first. No. Okay. So let me explain what pay yourself first, because this is essentially the ultimate strategy that I want to share with everyone here tonight. The idea of paying yourself first means when you get paid, when payday arrives, I want to encourage you to pay yourself first before you pay all your other bills. Pay yourself first before you pay your bills, okay? So that means even before you pay your rent, pay your groceries, pay your utilities, see if you could come up with an amount of money that you set aside, and you make a commitment to yourself that you will not touch, that this money is going towards your financial goal. If you don't feel confident that you have enough money to save, don't worry about it so much right now, because I'm going to show you later on strategies on how to identify a way to save. But for the time being, what I want to share with you is the idea of paying yourself first before you pay your bills. Put your money aside in a safe place before you pay your bills, okay? I repeated that like 20 times just now, so bear with me. The next point I want to bring up is that savings is an action. It's not an amount. Savings is something you do. It's not a cent or a dollar amount, okay? If you can only save $10, go ahead and save $10. Don't get dissuaded that if you're not saving the amount that is ideal for you, that you failed, because that is not something you should feel. You should save whatever you can save, whether it be a modest amount. So that's why the third point is important. Is okay if you can only save, it's okay if you can only save a little bit each month, so long as you're doing it is what's important. Save an amount that's comfortable for you. Again, this ties into what is realistic. What is a realistic amount for you to save? And I'm going to show you how to identify that realistic amount. The last and final point on this slide is to motivate yourself or challenge yourself to make savings a habit and to make it automatic. And when I say automatic, I don't necessarily mean figuratively. I actually mean automatic literally, in the literal sense that if your bank or your online banking gives you the option so that, let's say, every other Friday, you can set it up so that money from your checking account goes to your savings account, go ahead and try that method for you. See if you can sign up for an automatic transfer from your checking to your savings to set the money aside. If it's possible. If it's not possible, figure out another way to make it automatic. But what I'm trying to say is try to make savings automatic, not just figuratively, but also literally. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So some of you may be asking yourself, how can I save money if it's all gone by next payday? So the idea of paying yourself first before you pay your bills, some people may feel hesitant because you may already feel the crunch of all your bills that you have, that you don't feel confident that you will have any money to set aside. So one important question I encourage you to ask yourself, if you find yourself in that situation, is, are you tracking your money? Are you looking at where every single dollar goes throughout your spending time between paycheck to paycheck? Are you tracking your money? Because if the answer is no, then I encourage you to do that, because that will be the next step for you. That will be the next step to figure out how you can save money if you feel like you're living from paycheck to paycheck. So what are some tried and true methods of checking your money? Well, check registers is the old-fashioned way to do it, but I honestly still do it, even though I create my own notebook. But using a check register is a valid way of checking your money. Anytime you spend money, write it down in your check register, whether you wrote a check or not. It doesn't really matter if it's not an actual check, just go ahead and write down where you spent your money at. If you don't feel confident in that, then go ahead and use your bank's online banking platform, because you can go and see your activity and your history there to keep tabs on yourself. Mobile apps, the same thing as online banking, you just use your cell phone for that service. Very easy to use, very easy to sign up for. You can check it from the convenience of your own home. Like myself, I created my own notebook that's basically a grandiose check register that I use very frequently. And those of you who might be self-employed, who have their own businesses, you might need to create a profit and loss statement, because you might need to inject money, pay bills for your business. And for your tax purposes, you create a profit and loss statement so you can show to your tax preparer to help you with your taxes. So a profit and loss statement is something that a lot of self-employed individuals use to track their money. So let's do a little exercise here. This is going to be an interactive exercise. So if any people can eventually respond on microphone will be nice, but I want each and every one of you to take a look at this list. See how these words are related to each other. Let me know, and anyone can speak up if you can see a trend, if you can see a similarity with this list of items. I'm not sure if Connie was saying something, but you're off mic.
How's that? Living expenses.
I can hear you. Yep, those are living expenses. Do you think they're worthwhile living expenses or not worthwhile?
They're worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree. They're definitely worthwhile. So
Yeah.
this is a list of very important expenses that many of us have. These are expenses that, for all intents and purposes, we can't do without, right? We need a place to live, we need electricity, we need water, we need groceries, we need gasoline to get to work, public transportation. If we're part of a union, we need to pay our union dues. Cell phones allow us to communicate with others and coordinate meetings and whatnot. Car insurance for transportation, internet tuition, all that good stuff. Now, let's move on to the next slide. What kind of list is this? And because the first 4 items on the list, I think you know exactly where I'm going with this. So this is a list of things we may spend on that may not be essentially good things to spend on, that we can do without, that we can avoid. Because these are types of items that may appear on our online banking, there may appear on our check registers that don't allow us to create a savings plan. So keeping a track of our money can even allow us to avoid things such as overdraft fees or snowball overdraft fees. Being careful of where we park our car can avoid things like parking tickets. If we have gym memberships that we don't really ever use, well, that's cutting into our money. If we have entertainment services like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and a bunch of others that we really don't watch because we really only watch Netflix, well, we can do without all the other extra stuff. The ordering out food or eating out too often, believe it or not, is one of the biggest ones I have seen during my financial coaching times, where people were not really that aware how much they were spending on things that they could have been saving money on. So take the time, each and every one of you, to take a look at your billings, not your billing statements, but your banking statements, or even your check registers, however you track your money, and really determine how much are you spending on this, add it all together, and just see for yourself what the actual number is. You might be surprised. You might be pleasantly surprised, or you might be unfortunately surprised. So the next thing I want to show you is how to create a plan to save, a strategy to save based on the financial goal that you have created for yourself. Now, this does involve some pen and paper or pencil and paper. I'm not sure, Cheryl, did you get a chance to share with the team this worksheet? If not, that's okay.
No, I did not. But if people put their email in the chat, I'll be happy to send it to them right now.
Great. And that's okay if you didn't. We're going to work on this together. And for those of you who have access to pen and paper, you don't necessarily need the sheet because we're going to go over it right now. So for those of you who have, for the most part, identified a financial goal, you may already be asking yourself or have already asked yourself, how much money do I need to reach this goal? You may have also asked yourself, by what date? What is my time limit? What is my due date? Right? What date do I need to save this by? Right? That also then leads to the next question, which is how much do I need to save each pay period to reach that goal? Right? So on this worksheet that Cheryl is sharing with you, and if you're not able to work on it now, that's okay. You at least are going to have a copy of it and you can go over it. And after tonight's presentation, you can always reach back to me to go over it in more detail, or you can go over it with Cheryl. But the instructions are as follows. Step 1 is to list the goals you want to save in the first column under goals. So they use an example here. So this individual wants to sign up for a series of 6 cooking classes. Maybe they're a chef and they're learning how to do a special type of dessert, and they need a little bit more practice or tutoring on it. So they need to sign up for this special 6 classes, right? Step 2 is to estimate how much money you need for each goal under column A. This individual figured out that to register for these classes, it costs $479. So that's the dollar goal for this person. Then step 3, estimate how many months it will take you to reach that goal under column B. So this person knows that in 6 months is when they need to take this cooking class. So they have a 6-month time limit to save up $479, right? So $479 is a dollar amount, and they need this in 6 months. So step 4, and I might need to make adjustments to my screen because I need to be able to read it. Step 4 is divide column A by column B to figure out how much money you will need to save each month to reach your goal in column C. So let me pull out my calculator. Or actually, no, they do the math for us. So $479 divided by 6 months is $79.83. Is everyone following me so far?
Yes.
So what that means essentially is they need to save $79.83 each month. Let's round it up to $80 each month, right? $80, if this person can save $80 each month for 6 months, they will for sure have their $479. We could even break it down further. Let's not think of it as $80 each month. Let's think of it as $40 each pay period if they get paid every 2 weeks, right? 4 weeks per month, 2 pay periods per month. So if they can commit to $40 per pay period, they will have their $480 in 6 months. So pause. Remember earlier we talked about pay yourself first before you pay your bills. What if this person said on payday, before I pay all my bills, I'm going to take $40, put it in my savings account. That's how they're going to strategize saving this money in 6 months. Okay. So this is just a bigger version of what I just showed you. But here, I could create one for myself. So let's say my goal is to buy a car. Dante needs to buy a car because the one he has is falling apart. I'm taken to the shop way too frequently. I need something else, right? So I have decided that buying a car is my financial goal. So under goals, I'm going to put buy a car. I don't think I can type on this. But under number 1 goals, I'm going to put buy a car. Under column A, I have decided that in order to buy the car that I need to and want to buy, I am going to offer a $3,000 down payment. That's the total amount I have decided that I'm going to need, that I feel comfortable in being able to raise in the time limit I'm going to decide. And the time limit I have decided is 6 months. So Dante has decided to buy a car. Dante is going to try to save $3,000 in 6 months. So what does that mean? What does that mean for this column number C? So if I take 3,000 divided by 6, I should get $500. So if Dante can save $500 a month, I should be able to raise that $3,000 in 6 months. And then I'm going to break it down even further again, because Dante gets paid every 2 weeks. If Dante can save $250 every pay period, then I can save $3,000 in 6 months. Do you see how that works? It might be easier to put it on pen and paper. And if you have a chance to work on this right now, would be fantastic, because you could start to see how this works for yourself. It all boils down to what your goal is and how important that goal is to you. Because if the goal is not that important, it's probably not going to work out. That's why identifying your financial goal is essentially step 1. Figuring out what it is you're trying to do first. That's extremely important to you based on your values. Buying a car may not be part of your values. If you don't believe in fossil fuels and you're not into cars in general, you prefer bike, that it's a legitimate reason to not have a car be your financial goal. So this is based on your values. Any questions so far? Okay. So again, going back to the living by paycheck to paycheck scenario, what if you don't feel confident in the amount of money that you can save, or you just don't feel confident that there's a realistic amount that you could put into play in the time frame you've decided for yourself? We might need to scale back and create a spending plan for yourself. Remember that a spending plan is just another way of saying budget. You need to create a budget for yourself. For some people, budget has a negative connotation and spending plans seems more positive, but I don't want you to misunderstand what a spending plan is. You're creating a budget for yourself to figure out how much money you're making, where it's going. So how do you create a spending plan? How do you create a budget? The method that I encourage you to do is as such. Figure out which are your important bills. Remember the list we visited earlier, essential bills for living. What are your important bills will be step one, right? Step two is, well, what else do I spend my money on? That's why it's important to identify the things on your banking statement that aren't necessarily helping your goal, because those are the things you can do without, and those are the things I encourage you to avoid. Now take a look at your bills that are important. Are there any important bills I can reduce? Remember, there's always a way, or not always a way, that's a little too strong, but there's often a way to reduce the bills you currently have and find a better deal. Let's take car insurance, for example. If you have a certain car insurance because you've been there since forever, it may be worth your time. You've been with that company for forever. It may be worth your time to shop around a little bit and see if there's a better deal for you, or talk to your car insurance brokers to revisit your car insurance, because maybe you qualify for a better premium on your insurance since times have passed, and you just might get a better deal elsewhere, right? So always look to see if you can get a better deal on the important bills that you do have, that you have to spend money on. Going back to your unnecessary expenses, are there any I can just eliminate altogether? Remember the services that you may be spending on that you're not really using. And then again, I can't stress this enough. Check to see how much you're spending on eating out or food delivery, because this is one that I've often seen people not be too aware of, that once they start tracking their money, they realize, wait a second, I am going a little overboard in this spending. And the last point here I want to share with you is, if you often withdraw cash from an ATM or withdraw cash from your bank or credit union, be aware on how you spend that money. I've met with people in the financial coaching world that when we try to create a budget, they thought they should be able to save $600, but they were very well aware that there was no $600 to save because they kept living from paycheck to paycheck. What we identified by looking at his spending habits was he makes a lot of cash withdrawals from an ATM, and he just slowly but surely spends all that money because it's in his pocket, and he just has money to spend wherever he goes and whoever he visits. So he was not aware that he was spending a little too much because he had the habit of withdrawing cash and just holding it in his pocket, ready to spend at any moment's notice. So take a look at yourself and see if you might fall under that category. So here's another exercise I want to share with all of you. This is where you get a chance to look at this list and see if you spend money under these categories. And what I want you to do is to go ahead and write the dollar amount that you actually do spend or believe you spend for that category. So they're thinking positively in that the first thing you do is you set aside savings. That may not be realistic for you if you don't have the habit of automatically saving money for yourself or paying yourself first before you pay your bills. But under categories like housing, go ahead and write in how much you spent on rent or whatever housing situation you have. Do you spend on internet and cable? Go ahead and write that in. I'm not sure if you can see because the print is pretty small, but there's a lot of categories that apply to many people as to their monthly billing their monthly expenses that may or may not apply to you. But if you have time now or have time later, take a look at this very carefully and write in the dollar amount that is accurate. It's very important to be accurate as to your expenses for all these categories. The categories could be food, it could be childcare, it could be medical care, it could be transportation, where it'd be public or private transportation. Auto insurance is a big one. Gasoline and tolls, right? Do you buy checks or money orders, and what the fee for that is? Do you cash checks? Because you may not have a bank account, which we could talk later if we have time. Do you cash checks, and how much are you paying for a check casher to cash your checks? Because that could be an expense you can avoid if you decide to join a bank or credit union. Are there a bunch of other miscellaneous expenses that you have? Once you have taken time, carefully and slowly, you've tallied all these up, you're going to want to write that in at the very bottom where it says total expenses, letter A, right? Now may not be the best time to do it, but I want to encourage all of you to do this exercise at your earliest convenience. And by earliest convenience, I really mean as soon as possible, like tonight or tomorrow, if you're really serious about figuring out a way to save. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. The next slide is now a tally of your income. Some of us may only have one job. Some of us may have several jobs. Some of us may have a little side job, like driving for Lyft or Uber. Some of us may have some sort of monetary assistance or child support. Any source of income you are receiving is what you tally under this page 2. And ideally, it's going to be your net income, not your gross, because we're gonna be using money that you get to spend, not pre-tax money that we can't count on you having in your pocket. When you add all these together, you put that all at the bottom. Well, not at the bottom, but in the middle where it says total income, where it has that big letter B. All your income goes there by the big letter B. The third step in this process is to take all your.
I'm on it right now. So it's gonna flash.
Oh, I thought she was that a question, or was that a little side comment? Sorry.
Someone was talking. Keep going, please. Yes.
Yeah. So you take your total income B and you subtract your expenses. We're doing this to see, is there money left over, right? Some of you may not have money left over. Some of it might be a deficit. Some may be just breaking even, and some might have a surplus. Surplus meaning there is money left over. Now, it has often happened using real case scenarios that people did this exercise and saw a surplus, and they told me, you know what, Dante, that doesn't sound right. That surplus doesn't sound right. For example, the young man I was just telling you earlier, I for sure don't have a surplus of $600. I'm not sure what's going on here, because these numbers are right. These numbers are accurate. I should have a surplus of $600 that I kid you not, I do not know where that money's been going for all this time. So this is just a real case scenario where we had to go back and look at his bank statements and identify what the root of the problem was. And again, in his case, he was making a lot of cash withdrawals, and he was frequenting a local tea shop. He went there like literally every day, and he often paid for his tea and just hung out there for a good part of his day, paying with the money he got from the ATM machine, cash. So that was one way he was able to identify a method to save money, because the $600 surplus that, according to his worksheet, said he should have, he was not able to identify. So that's how you can all practice doing this to see, is the resulting amount surprising? Am I surprised by whether or not I have a surplus, or did I know this all along? If you're surprised with your surplus, then you can go back and revisit and figure out, what are you not accounting for? If you don't have a surplus, if you're the negative, then you might want to revisit what can I do differently? What can I strategize a way to reduce some of my costs? All right, so let's move on to the next slide. Any questions there?
Hey,
Okay,
Dante, I just want you to be mindful of the time. I know that you have to get out there at a certain time as well, so.
thanks so much, Cheryl. I just looked at my clock as well. I appreciate that. Yes, so we're coming towards the end of our presentation, but the next step is to create a budget formula. So the budget formula is as such: track your expenses. Very important to be accurate, and so you got to be mindful. I just showed you an example of how being accurate is extremely important, because if you're not accurate, the numbers are not going to add up and you're going to be confused. So you subtract your monthly expenses from your monthly income. The money left over is your surplus. This surplus is the money that you want to use to identify what is a realistic amount that you can set for yourself to pay yourself first. And the final ingredient is to make that commitment to pay yourself first. No one can make you do it. You have to decide to do it for yourself. So setting the financial goal is very important to get you motivated to do so. So what would be your next step after tonight? Well, I'm hoping that you sit with a coach, a friend, or a mentor and make this plan. And you're more than welcome to do it for yourself. But if you don't feel confident, involve someone. See someone you trust, a confidant of sorts, have them involved in this process for you. Because I think you're going to get the most out of it if it's a collaborative process. And I, as an employee of Self-Help, I am more than willing to sit down with anyone who wants to sit down and make a plan like this a reality. If you're interested in visiting me here at Self-Help, we have a branch in West Oakland. We're right in front of the West Oakland BART station. So if you're on public transportation, we're relatively easy to reach. My email is here included. My phone number, if you want to give me a call and chat, is included. And yeah, I want to thank you all for participating in tonight's workshop, and thank you for lending me your ears.
Thank you, Dante. This was really informative and a wonderful presentation. I didn't see any question, T-Get expense. I didn't see any question for Dante in the chat. Does anyone have any last minute question for Dante? We have 3 more minutes. You can unmute yourself if you do. Let's see. Before we let everyone go, I just want to remind everyone that there's a survey that I'm going to try to maybe I can just plug it in here again, or I can email a survey to everyone. Please, I'm going to encourage you to complete this survey. Let me just send it to you. Complete this survey. Once you have completed the survey, I have got everyone's name. We're going to select 3 winners. There are 6 of you on here tonight. 3 of you will be receiving a Target gift card if you complete the survey, but you can only, you will only be included in the raffle drawing if you completed the survey. So if only 3 people completed the survey, then all 3 people will get the Target gift card. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to please complete the aspirational survey for us. And for more future workshops from One Treasure Island, please visit our website at onetreasureisland.org. That's onetreasureisland.org. Or you can just contact me. You all have my email address. Reach out to me for future One Treasure Island workshops. Or if you need any kind of financial assistance, I'm here. If you need to reach Dante and you didn't get this information, reach out to me and I'll get his information to you. If no one has any other questions, I'm going to give you some time back. It's not 7 o'clock, but Dante has to get out of there where he's at before 7. Otherwise, he's going to set off the alarm at the credit union. We don't want the police to come.
Yeah, I gotta watch out.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening.